everyone, Cody here. I'm just off to go home and drop off some groceries, and I'm gonna cook a quick steak. Then I'm gonna go for a hike. It's beautiful today. I'm hoping I can get some direct sunlight. So what I wanted to talk about today is kind of a unique thing. And this won't really pertain to what I normally talk about. This doesn't really have much to do with any of that, but I wanted to talk about some of the issues that I see in non-profit agencies, specifically in British Columbia. I'm in a unique position to talk about this because I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been a client in supportive housing, treatment centers. I have used most common non-profit agencies in British Columbia, especially during my time when I was homeless in Vancouver. When you're homeless in Greater Vancouver, it's weird because you're not really in one area. You kind of travel around to the surrounding communities, not monthly, not yearly, daily. You could be staying in Surrey for 7 days and then something happens and you need to go to Vancouver and you're there for 2 days. Then you go to New West for a day. Something happens. Next thing you know, you're in Maple Ridge. It's crazy the commuting you get into when you're homeless, and you got to do what you got to do to meet your basic needs every day, because in order to get a shower, to eat, to get a good sleep, to be inside from the elements, to get resources, to get support, to speak with counselors and support workers so you don't lose your mind, you might need to travel to various different nonprofit agencies to find a job, to make a resume. They're not all one. If you end up being homeless with no job in British Columbia, you're gonna have to go to 5 or 6 different nonprofit agencies and jump through all their hoops, because typically they're run by people who have never been in the shoes of anyone who uses the services. That's the first disconnect I will see. A lot of times the people who run these nonprofit agencies don't have their heart in the right place. They're doing it for the money. They're doing it because they have a university or college degree and they think they're better. I'm not even going to get into that. I'm not going to put my own prejudice in there. But they think that they're more qualified for the job because they read some books and they were told by a professor who's never been in the shoes either. And they think they have all this knowledge and they're above everyone else, when really nothing beats lived experience, and anyone will attest to that. The only people who speak against that are the people who are against it, the managers, the CEOs, the people in power. They manage these nonprofit agencies a lot of the time straight into the ground or with an iron fist, and they act like it's Alcatraz, or the way that they treat the homeless people and the people getting on their feet is unreal. I wish we could show more of that in real time, but a lot of times the system is set up in a way where the client is always wrong, because typically they're in addiction. They got other stuff going on in their life that discredits them by society automatically. Could you imagine trying to stay sober and being homeless and not having at least a stable shelter? A lot of people think that they can get all these resources and services. That's not the case. It's not as simple as it sounds. A lot of communities in BC don't even have agencies to help people. So a lot of people up here in the Northwest, they have to travel to Prince George or Kelowna, which can be 12 hours away. This is where you get into the issues with Highway 16. People going missing, hitchhiking on the highway because they don't have resources to travel from community to community. I'm kind of veering off course. Some of the issues I see with the nonprofit agencies is a lot of the people who work for the agencies and are at a low level, and they're stuck at a low level by management. Their careers are sabotaged. They're not given the attention, the care, and they're not they're not able to shine in the eyes of the management and people who control the nonprofits. The people who work at the lower level are usually the people with lived experience, and their intentions are pure, and they have that job because they genuinely want to help people. Now, if you're like myself, what will happen is you will have these intentions, you'll literally want to give back to society, then you'll end up working for a company that has people working there that are literally only there for a paycheck, or they're only there to further their corporate career in some way. And what that looks like is like during job fairs, during all these events where people in the community get together, that person's snaking around trying to make little connections instead of helping clients, so that when they burn the bridges of where they're at, they're gonna have somewhere else to go. Because usually a lot of people that work in these nonprofit agencies, the job environment becomes so toxic that like the people who had good intentions in the start, they either can't handle working in this environment because of their mental health, or on the other hand, they just get sabotaged by the people in power, because the people, like the management, they have no business being in charge of people to begin with. The people that are put in management positions, then what you see is they start to get worried when they see an employee come up under them who actually has their heart in the right place. That makes the management people freak out, because they know that their true intentions and who they really are could come to the surface. So you're gonna see weird little things taking place in the hallways of these nonprofit agencies. The people who work for them are gonna have so much conflict going on in their environment and so much toxicity that they can't do career development for themselves. They can't work on the trauma that they're taking on as they work with clients. And you know what? The number one thing is that I'm gonna leave off on, there's so many different ways to help people, but if you don't follow whatever the ideology is from the HR department and the people who work there, and you don't follow what they think, and you venture off at all, you will see yourself get shut down. So if you have any potential or creativity in this area, if it threatens the general like narrative, or if it threatens the manager's ego whatsoever, they will not only make sure that it doesn't come up, they will make sure to sabotage it and make sure that you don't even want to mention it to anyone. And it takes so much self-development in yourself to be able to stand up and say this isn't acceptable without being scared of losing your job, because the people who come into these jobs, they've usually had really rough lives and they have trauma of their own. That's why they have the job, because they actually want to help people. They come into these toxic environments where no one's really there for the good intention, the people on the top. They're there for their ego, and they're there for a paycheck, not because they actually want to help people. So there's this huge disconnect, and a lot of ripple effects happen from this. This is a very difficult issue to explain, but I'm going to speak about it more because I no longer have to fear that. I can speak my mind. I can speak how I truly feel now without fear of losing my job, home, food, structure I built for myself. These people who come into these support worker jobs to help people, they come in with their own list of trauma. They come into these workplaces with a giant fear because they probably haven't developed themselves enough to not have it. And then that fear is used against them. So if they speak up at all, if they speak up for themselves, if they even try to follow the correct procedures and go to HR with an issue, it's all about who you know. So like if the person that you are going to HR with an issue with, if that person is friends with HR, you're not going to get very far. You learn these things before you even bring the issue up, because there's all this unspoken stuff that goes on. And where I'm trying to go with this is, you go in with these good intentions to actually help people, to get shot down, you get burnt out. The company you work for doesn't care about you. You soon learn they don't actually care about the people either. They're simply there for a paycheck. you take on more trauma. You have this like fear of being fired. You have this fear of losing the life you're building, and you allow yourself to be bullied. You allow yourself to be belittled. You allow yourself to be a victim. And then that victim mentality starts spreading to other areas of your life. That's the crazy part. So if you can relate to this, you know what I'm saying. There's a way out of it, and we can talk about it. Feel free to reach out anytime. Food for thought.